There's a moment every American has had in a liquor aisle, staring at shelves stacked like a personality quiz you didn't study for. Some bottles shaped our drinking culture, some shaped our worst decisions, and a few, well, unlocked stories we still pretend it never happened. Today we're ranking 10 American liquors you absolutely need to experience at least once, not by hype or price, but by the flavor, history, and strange cultural magic behind each one. This list will make you argue, nod, and maybe remember a night you swore you forgot. All right, let's start at the bottom. Number 10, Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. Fireball isn't a refined sipping spirit. It isn't trying to be. Its entire identity screams chaos in a bottle, built for that unplanned moment when a group of friends decides, without explanation, that doing just one more is a good idea. It's sweet, fiery, and loud in a way that feels engineered for nights that end with questionable storytelling and a round of "Who thought that was smart?" Born from the flavored whiskey wave that overtook bars in the 2010s, Fireball exploded because it delivered something simple. Instant punch without effort. There's nothing subtle about the cinnamon blast. It's more candy shop heat than traditional whiskey spice, but that's exactly why it turned into a national rite of passage. Its grip on American drinking culture comes from accessibility, not complexity. This is the bottle that gets pulled out at tailgates, house parties, and birthday chaos. You don't analyze Fireball, you survive it. And even though most people eventually age out of it, everyone remembers their Fireball era. It's messy, iconic, and unavoidable, which is why it kicks off this list. Number 9, Southern Comfort. Southern Comfort is the opposite of Fireball's reckless energy. Instead of a dare, it's a warm welcome, smooth, sweet, and soaked in old-school Southern charm. Created in 19th century New Orleans, it carved out an identity built on fruit-tinged warmth and easy sipping. You can practically hear distant jazz in the background when someone orders it. Despite not being a traditional whiskey, its blend of spices, soft sweetness, and subtle fruit made it one of the most approachable American liquors ever bottled. For many drinkers, SoCo wasn't just a drink, it was the first cocktail they ever enjoyed without forcing a brave face. That nostalgia is part of its power. It thrives in mixed drinks, Alabama Slammers, Scarlet O'Haras, anything that needs a softer, rounder backbone. But the real story is its cultural place. It's the drink people remember from college nights, road trip bars, and late summer gatherings. It's comforting in the way only an old Southern classic can be. Southern Comfort lands here because it's legendary, friendly, and historically significant, yet too sweet and stylized to push deeper into this list. Number 8, Tito's Handmade Vodka. Tito's is what happens when a simple idea grows into a quiet empire. Launched out of Austin, it didn't try to be flashy or boutique. It didn't sink money into ornate bottles or dramatic backstories. It did one thing extremely well: deliver a clean, reliable vodka that worked in any drink you threw at it. Made from corn and distilled in the small batches, Tito's developed a smoothness that made it the go-to choice for people who wanted clarity without pretension. Order a vodka soda anywhere in America, and there's a good chance the bartender reaches for Tito's by muscle memory alone. It's become the unofficial default. Its rise wasn't fueled by snobbery or exclusivity. It spread because everyday drinkers trusted it. People liked that it wasn't trying to impress them. It simply delivered. And in a world full of over-designed vodka brands promising purity as if it's a luxury, Tito's stood out by being accessible and predictable in the best way. It sits at number 8 because while it doesn't blow your mind with flavor, it quietly shaped modern American bar culture through consistency and understatement. Before we jump into the rest of this countdown, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next ranking. And drop your must-try American liquor in the comments. Someone's favorite bottle always starts an argument. Number 7, Aviation American Gin. Aviation is the gin that convinced an entire generation of Americans that gin doesn't have to taste like you're chewing a forest. Crafted in Portland long before celebrity ownership made it trendy, it helped rewrite what American gin could be: soft, aromatic, modern, and refreshingly unintimidating. Instead of the old-school juniper punch, Aviation leans into lavender, citrus, spice, and a rounded smoothness that feels almost silky. It's the kind of gin that makes someone who once swore they don't drink gin suddenly reconsider everything. That shift alone earned it a spot in American liquor history. Its clean, contemporary flavor made it a bartender favorite for cocktails like the Aviation, martinis, or even simple spritz-style mixes. And the cultural boost from pop culture fame didn't hurt. Suddenly, people who never touched gin were buying it just to see what the hype was about. The key is that the liquid actually delivers. The branding just amplified what was already good. Aviation ranks at number 7 because it didn't just create fans. It opened a new door for drinkers who wanted elegance without old-school sharpness, proving American gin could stand confidently on its own style. Number 6 is Sazerac Rye. Sazerac Rye isn't just whiskey, it's a portal straight into America's early drinking history. Long before modern bars started arguing about barrel proofs and mash bills, New Orleans bartenders were pouring rye into rituals that shaped the country's cocktail culture. When you pick up a bottle of Sazerac, you're not just tasting a spirit, you're tasting a piece of the city that practically invented the American barroom myth. What sets this rye apart is its character. It opens with warm notes of clove and pepper, but instead of punching you in the throat like some high-proof ryes, it moves with a measured confidence. There's vanilla, a hint of anise, touches of caramelized spice, and an undercurrent of citrus that keeps the whole profile lively. It's bold enough to sip neat, steady enough to anchor cocktails, and smooth enough to introduce newcomers to the category without scaring them off. But Sazerac's real charm comes from legacy. Order a Sazerac cocktail anywhere in the country, and chances are someone behind the bar will nod knowingly when they pour this specific bottle. It's not just an ingredient, it's tradition. And unlike trend-driven whiskeys that flare up and disappear, Sazerac continues to feel timeless. It lands at number 6 because it isn't simply delicious, it's foundational. It teaches you what rye is supposed to taste like without overwhelming you, and it carries a history that adds weight to every sip. It's the kind of bottle that makes you pause for a second before pouring, out of respect for the story inside. Number 5, Wild Turkey 101. Bourbon Wild Turkey 101 is the bourbon that proves strength doesn't have to mean brutality. At first glance, the label looks like a warning sign. Bold red numbers, a bird that stares straight through you. But the whiskey inside has a surprising amount of finesse. It's unapologetically high proof, yet it manages to stay balanced, warm, and richly layered in a way that has earned it long-term loyalty among bartenders and at-home enthusiasts alike. The aroma alone gives away its personality. Oak, vanilla, toasted sugar, and a dark, earthy undertone that hints at roasted nuts or even a touch of molasses. The first sip follows through with a burst of caramel, baking spice, and a weighty richness that never feels clumsy. Instead of burning for the sake of it, the proof lifts the flavors, making everything taste more alive and intentional. This is why so many classic bourbon cocktails taste better with 101. It refuses to disappear behind sugar, bitters, or citrus. But what really gives Wild Turkey 101 its place in this countdown is its honesty. It isn't dressed up as a rare, elusive treasure. It's everywhere, affordable, and consistently better than bottles twice its price. It's the bourbon you can rely on whether you're mixing drinks for a crowd or pouring a quiet nightcap for yourself. It earns the number 5 spot because it strikes that rare balance between approachability and power. It's strong without being wild, flavorful without being fussy, and timeless without ever feeling outdated. In a world full of bourbons trying too hard, 101 succeeds by simply being itself, loud, confident, and incredibly dependable. Number 4, Maker's Mark Bourbon. Maker's Mark is the bourbon that greets you with a handshake instead of a challenge. The iconic red wax seal has been sitting on American shelves for generations, but the liquid inside still surprises people with its softness. That smooth, rounded flavor comes from one key decision: swapping rye for wheat. It seems simple, yet it transforms the entire experience, making this one of the most inviting bourbons ever produced. Before the first sip, the aroma wraps you in warm vanilla, sweet grains, and a gentle nuttiness. On the palate, it opens with honey and caramel, followed by toasted oak and hints of baking spice that settle in without dominating. Nothing feels excessive. Nothing shouts. It's all measured, balanced, and deliberately crafted to avoid the harsh edges that push some people away from whiskey altogether. This is why Maker's Mark became so many people's first real bourbon, the one that convinced them whiskey could be comforting instead of intimidating. Another reason this bottle made the list is consistency. Maker's famously rotates barrels through different parts of their warehouses to maintain a consistent flavor profile, treating aging like a culinary art instead of a formula. That attention to detail is why it tastes familiar year after year, even as trends shift and the bourbon world reaches for stronger, darker, bolder expressions. Maker's Mark lands at number 4 because it's the perfect middle ground. Not too sweet, not too spicy, not too complicated, and never boring. It's the rare bottle that pleases newcomers, purists, and casual drinkers all at once. When a bourbon can unite that many palates, it definitely earns its spot in the top half of the countdown. Number 3, Buffalo Trace Kentucky Straight Bourbon. Buffalo Trace is the bourbon that taught America what affordable luxury tastes like. It was never meant to be a collector's item or the subject of internet treasure hunts. In its purest form, this bottle was designed to be a dependable, everyday bourbon, a warm, balanced pour you could introduce to almost anyone. But as its reputation grew, so did the fascination surrounding it. Suddenly, something that used to sit quietly on shelves turned into a small victory every time you spotted it at retail price. The first thing that hits you is the aroma. Vanilla and brown sugar flow out gently, softened by hints of mint and toasted oak. Nothing feels forced. The nose pulls you in with that comforting bourbon sweetness, but the palate adds more dimension. Caramel, dark fruit, light spice, warm toffee, and a trace of tobacco leaf weaving through the background. It doesn't overwhelm, it unfolds. Each sip rolls through flavor in waves, coating the tongue without ever feeling syrupy or heavy. Part of what fuels the Buffalo Trace phenomenon is its lineage. This distillery is responsible for some of the most coveted bourbons in existence. Bottles people camp outside stores for, bottles that disappear in minutes, bottles whispered about in groups that treat whiskey like archaeology. The irony? Buffalo Trace's flagship bourbon shares the same DNA, the same heritage, the same thoughtful craftsmanship, all without the impossible price tag. It ranks at number 3 because it combines flavor, history, and cultural impact better than almost any bottle in its class. It's not rare for rarity's sake. It's loved because it deserves to be. And if you've never tried it, the first sip explains the hype instantly. Number 2, Woodford Reserve Kentucky Straight Bourbon. Woodford Reserve isn't just bourbon. It's a masterclass in complexity, wrapped in a bottle that looks like it belongs on the desk of someone who appreciates the fine details in life. If Buffalo Trace is the accessible favorite, Woodford is the refined counterpart, deeper, richer, and built for people who want to taste every layer of what a well-made bourbon can offer. From the moment you uncap it, Woodford sets a tone. Aromas of dried fruit, toasted sugar, cocoa, citrus peel, and charred oak rise together, almost like a bourbon perfume. Then the palate delivers a spread of flavors so broad you can't rush it. Dark chocolate, cinnamon, caramel drizzle, orange zest, tobacco warmth, and just enough spice to keep every sip lively. Nothing fights for dominance. Everything supports everything else, like a perfectly rehearsed orchestra. This harmony is intentional. Woodford's production process is famously meticulous. Triple distilled spirit, stone fermentation tanks, and heat-cycled warehouses that influence how the bourbon matures. It's the kind of attention that creates depth without requiring high proof or theatrics. You taste craftsmanship in every corner of the profile. Beyond flavor, Woodford holds cultural weight. It's the bottle you see in tasting flights, the one bartenders pour when they want to introduce someone to serious bourbon, the one that shows up in gift boxes when people want to make a strong impression. It feels premium without crossing into exclusivity, and that balance made it a national favorite. It sits at number 2 because of its elegance. It's sophisticated, expressive, and layered in a way that rewards slow drinking. Woodford is proof that great bourbon doesn't need hype. It just needs to show up consistently and deliver a rich, full-bodied experience every time. Number 1. Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 Tennessee Whiskey. Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 isn't just a liquor, it's an American symbol, recognized from neon bar signs to concert stages, from roadside diners to international airports. It's the one bottle on this entire list that transcends the category and becomes a cultural language of its own. Whether you love it, respect it, or reserve it for certain moods, you can't deny its influence. The scent sets the stage with a mix of toasted oak, vanilla, soft charcoal, and a faint sweetness that hints at caramelized fruit. When you sip it, the charcoal mellowing, the signature step that sets Tennessee whiskey apart, creates a smooth entry that glides across the palate. Notes of caramel, gentle smoke, warm grain, and subtle spice come together in a profile that's bold enough to stand out, but calm enough for everyday drinking. It's straightforward without being simple, familiar without feeling watered down. But its taste is only half the story. Jack Daniel's became iconic because it represents something: grit, independence, rebellion, Americana. Musicians endorsed it without contracts. Road-weary travelers ordered it because it felt like home. Celebrations, heartbreaks, concerts, weddings. Jack has been the uninvited guest who somehow fits in perfectly. And while the world of whiskey keeps expanding with boutique bottles, experimental barrels, and limited editions, Jack Daniel's remains the most recognized American spirit globally. That consistency, flavor, branding, presence is why it stands at the top of this countdown. Jack Daniel's earns the #1 spot because it isn't just something you try, it's something you eventually understand. It's the taste of American identity poured into a square bottle with a black label, timeless, unmistakable, and impossible to ignore. And that's our full countdown. 10 American liquors that shape nights, memories, and entire drinking traditions. Whether you're discovering a new favorite or revisiting an old classic, each bottle tells a different story about how America drinks. Drop your own must-try picks in the comments, hit like, and subscribe for more rankings that spark debates and maybe a few cravings. Until next time, cheers and drink smart.